The pandemic has changed a lot about what it's like to go on a cruise, but there's been a couple changes that Royal Caribbean made after COVID-19 that I think have been amazing. So today, I've got a list of 6 things that I love that have changed because of the pandemic up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from CARIBBEANblog.com, and if you guys watch enough of my videos, you know that I always like to try to look for the positive in going on a cruise, right? Lots of changes are happening in the world today, and sometimes there's bad changes, sometimes there's good changes, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to appreciate the changes. But regardless of what's happening, I always feel like there's a silver lining to most things that are happening in the cruise industry. And while the last 2+ years have been anything but easy, they've been a struggle. I don't want to overlook that fact. There are a couple things that I think have improved in cruising due to COVID-19. What I mean by that is not actually the virus, of course, but I'm talking about the changes, the new policies, and approaches to cruising that Royal Caribbean has taken. When Royal Caribbean wanted to come back to cruising in early 2021, they had to really rethink the cruise experience. And they were looking at it through the lens of how do we keep people healthier and separated and not as congested, and also make sure the people who are on board the ship are being taken care of in a healthy manner. That was the idea behind it. And they made a number of changes all around the ship. And in that experience, they've also made changes that were initially intended to protect against COVID-19. But the reality is they ended up actually being a really good change for the cruise public in general, because these have just made the experience a lot better. So today I have a list of ideas, and actually I got to give credit to Steve Reese from Annapolis, Maryland, who sent in this idea and said, Matt, we started putting together a list of our own changes that we made for early post-COVID sailings that we'd like to stay around, and I thought I'd share them with you since I think they can make for a good subject for a YouTube video. And I thought, Steve, you are absolutely right. So I've got my list of changes here, and I am sure there are others as well that you guys all love. Let me know in the comments below. Number 1, and this is at least something that's been in effect for now, won't be here forever, but while it's still here, reduced capacity on board Royal Caribbean cruise ships has been nothing but amazing. Whether you've been on a ship with 30% capacity, 50% capacity, or even 60% capacity, the less people you have on board the ship, that means the less people you're competing with. Now, this is bad for Royal Caribbean's bottom line, but for us as consumers, it has actually been really nice to be able to go on cruise ships over the last year or so and be able to enjoy these ships with far fewer guests on board. Now, I do believe there is such a thing as too few guests on board. When I started going on cruises and there were only like 30% capacity, I got to tell you that it felt a little weird, and in certain venues like bars in which there were performers on there, just didn't feel right to be like one of like 3 people in the bar singing along. You almost felt sorry for the performers on there. But at 50%, 60%, even 70% capacity, it feels great because you have basically a feeling like you have more of the ship to yourself, and there's less lines and less waiting. So having the lower capacity has certainly been a nice change. Now, as I mentioned, it's not going to be here forever. And if you're wondering what is the capacity right now, before you type it into the comments below this video, we don't know actually. Royal Caribbean changes the capacity depending on the ship and sailing, and Royal Caribbean does not tell us in advance what to expect. There is no formal announcement this month or that month it's going to be this percentage or that percentage. They don't divulge anything. All we know is that we'll be at limited capacity until sometime into the summer of 2022, and then at that point, Royal Caribbean will start upping the capacity, and the idea is to get to 100%. Now, again, these are averages we're talking about. So there may be one sailing with a higher capacity and the next sailing with lower capacity. Certainly, over spring break, I'd expect there to be a higher capacity on board than if you go before or after spring break. So keep all that in mind, but the bottom line is no one really knows when we'll get to full capacity again precisely. But in the meantime, it's wonderful, and I have enjoyed it. Number 2 is the crew serving you at the buffet. Boy, this is a great change. It's something that Royal Caribbean I don't think is going to get rid of, and I hope they never do get rid of it, because I love the idea of crew members serving you. So before COVID-19, you'd go to the Windjammer or any other buffet area, and you would serve yourself. You'd pick up the tongs, pick up the serving spoon, serve yourself. There you go, right? Well, buffets have a reputation, whether you're on a cruise ship or not, of being a little unhealthy because people are touching tongs and people don't have the best personal cleaning habits. You know, not everyone washes their hands like they're supposed to or sanitizes their hands. Not everyone picks their nose while they're in line or scratches their butt. These are things that happen, unfortunately, right? And by having the crew members serve you instead, we've eliminated that. So forget COVID-19 for a second. This is just a better experience overall, not to mention the fact that it also helps with portion control a little bit. As somebody who would definitely always go in with way too much food on my plate, and to be perfectly fair, I still do that anyway, but you know, it feels like there's a little less impetus or a little less easy to just load up your plate with food. I feel like by having to tell the crew member, yes, I'd like to have a little bit more of that, it helps with portion control a little bit more. But really, it's all about the health reasons behind it, and it works extremely well. In fact, I think it works faster with the crew serving than guest serving because guests tend to, not know where the tongs are. It takes too much time there. The crew is a little bit more efficient with it. So I love this change. Similarly, another change that Royal Caribbean made to the Windjam Air is to add hand washing stations, some of which were added before the pandemic, but they became even more important to have them while on board. And it really, again, helps make sure that we're all safe. So it's not all about COVID-19. Sometimes it's just about preventing the spread of the flu or the common cold or norovirus or anything else in there. Number 3 on my list is something we've talked about in a lot of videos, and it is worth mentioning every single time: the eMuster drill. What a revelation. I hated the old muster drill. I think everybody hated the old muster drill, where you'd get on board a cruise and you'd have a couple hours to yourself, and then everything has to stop. Everybody has to go to their muster station, stand around outside, and it's probably like 90 degrees out there, sweating, waiting. There's that person who comes in 10 minutes late, and you got to wait for the captain to dismiss you. It just stopped everything. It was this awful grind in your embarkation day. And quite frankly, until you got past the muster drill, it just didn't feel like you were on vacation yet. You get on board, you have your first drink of the day, but you think to yourself, oh, geez, I still got to do the muster drill. Now it is so much easier with Royal Caribbean's eMuster. Instead, up to 24 hours before your cruise, you get to go to the Royal Caribbean app, do the eMuster process in which you watch a safety video and listen to the emergency siren. And then when all you get on board the ship, all you have to do is simply go to the muster station, let them know that you're here, give them your CPAS card so they can scan it, and that's it. You're done. It's easy. You can do it at your own leisure. So that way, if you want to go do it right away or you want to go a little later in the afternoon, you have that choice. But the bottom line is you don't have to stop what you're doing with everybody else and go stand around in line. Instead, it just takes a couple of minutes to go do this, and it's a far faster process overall. As a parent, you bring your kids to the old muster drill was absolutely terrible. There were a lot of times in which it was just really too hot and uncomfortable, but forget that. That's all gone, and this has been a major change. By the way, Royal Caribbean was actually working on eMuster before COVID-19. This was an idea they came out with before the pandemic, before cruises shut down. They just thought it might be a good experience enhancer. And then when COVID-19 came around, well, the social distancing aspect and the need to have a different approach to the muster drill just made it all that much better. Number 4 on our list is more shows, meaning more repeats of shows on board. In order to accommodate vaccinated and unvaccinated guests, Royal Caribbean has added more show times to the popular shows in places like the Aqua Theater or the Main Theater. And that's been really easy, not just for folks who are unvaccinated or not, but because it just gives you more opportunity to see the shows that we absolutely love. Now, Omicron kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into the gears there with crew members getting sick and unfortunately not as many showtimes available. But as we move past that, it's nice to have more showtimes. You have more opportunity to see the shows, whether you want to see it once or see a repeat. It's even better. Next on my list is to be able to look at the menus on the Royal Caribbean app. While I still ask for a paper menu when I go to any of the restaurants on Royal Caribbean ships these days, it is really nice to be able to pull up the app on your phone and preview what the menu is going to be at that restaurant for that particular meal, whether it's the main dining room or a specialty restaurant. It's nice to be able to preview the menu, especially like when you're sitting around saying, where should we go for dinner tonight? Well, let's look at the menu and figure it out. It's been a very, very helpful tool to have the menus loaded in the app. In fact, the entire Royal Caribbean app has been an amazing advance in the last 2 years. Before the pandemic, the Royal Caribbean app was something nice to have. I would have told people, you know what? It's nice to have it if you're like that kind of a phone experience. You like having your phone with you. Sure, why not get it, right? But it wasn't critical. Now it's super critical, especially with the opportunity to do the online check-in and all those other things. But every little facet of the app has been improved. And I love the fact that the menus on there really make it a whole lot easier to be able to check out what's happening on there. Same is true for things like the cruise compass. I still prefer the paper cruise compass, but it's nice to be able to pull up the phone, especially when you're sitting in bed. Hey, what is there to do later on or what's happening right now? That's been very helpful. And of course, the advances in the check-in process in the app. So that way, when you get to the terminal, you've got everything loaded in there. I really appreciate that. Number 6 on my list is Disembarkation from the stateroom. Another, thank goodness we do this, hope this never goes away idea. And that is you can wait in your stateroom until your luggage tag number is called. Pre-COVID-19, on disembarkation day, after a certain time, you'd be forced out of your room. You'd have to go wait in a public area. Usually, it'd be a theater, it might be a dining room, somewhere else, a bar on board. They would tell you where to go and wait. And I hated this because number 1, you had to get out of your room pretty early. Number 2, you got to sit around with other people who were depressed the cruise is over and didn't get enough sleep last night. And number 3, it just required you to then sit around and be bored with other people with not a lot of entertainment. This is especially important for parents, again, because kids can't really kind of do their own thing. There's no bathrooms readily available. They can't really take out their toys and play around without impacting other people. So it was kind of a meh experience, to say the least. But now you're able to wait in your stateroom until your number is called, which makes it so much better, especially if you have a later luggage tag number. That way you can relax, you can sleep in a little bit more, in fact, and you have the facilities available to you, like your bathroom and space to stretch out in, and be able to enjoy your stateroom. So it's so much nicer sitting in your stateroom than in a crowded public space, and I absolutely love this. And the last thing on my list is the at-home COVID-19 test. Now, I remember in the first few months that Royal Caribbean had restarted cruises, and I had to go get my negative COVID test every single time I go to CVS or another pharmacy nearby and get my COVID test done there. It was a process. I had to go make a calendar reminder so that exactly 2 weeks beforehand, I'd go find an appointment date. I would have to find a location. Sometimes it was right near me. Sometimes it was 30 minutes away or even longer. You know, it was just this ordeal I had to go through. And then you had to go there. You had to, navigate the store. Every store had a different approach. Some were drive-through, some were walk-in. Anyway, it was just a big pain in the butt. And then you had to sit around there and wait for the results. I remember driving home one time, and the nurse told me, oh, yeah, you'll get your results pretty soon, but if we don't call you back in an hour, there's probably going to be a problem. Well, guess what happened? 58 minutes, 59 minutes, 61 minutes. No, it was fine. I wasn't COVID. It just, they took longer than they anticipated. But that kind of waiting, who wants to do that, right? As Tom Petty said, waiting is the hardest part. Anyway, all that's gone now with the at-home tests, with the Abbott's test that Royal Caribbean accepts, and I absolutely love these. Being able to do the test at home from the convenience of wherever you are without having to leave your house, having the whole thing done in about, really 20 minutes from start to finish. There's about 15 minutes of results, and obviously the test and the after test takes about 5 minutes. And you've got everything you need there, printouts, PDFs, screenshots. It's all waiting there, and it's super convenient. I couldn't be happier to go with this particular model, and I appreciate that Royal Caribbean accepts this one. And it just made it so much easier. So there's my list of things that Royal Caribbean has changed as a result of COVID-19. And I want to know, which of these do you agree with and which ones did I miss? I'm sure I missed one because I'm sitting here thinking there's got to be something else I thought that's been a change since COVID that's been for the better. But I'd love to hear them in the comments below so that I can write back in there. Should have mentioned that on the list as well. And while you're down below this video, make sure you like this video. Hit that like button. It really does help us out. Make sure you subscribe to our channel if you don't already, and turn on your notifications. That's a little bell icon next to the subscribe button, so that way YouTube lets you know when we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanblog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.